When the MVP trophy couldn't save Aya Wilson from complete humiliation, Aya Wilson walked into her own arena holding that shiny MVP trophy, expecting to dominate. Instead, she got schooled so badly by the Indiana Fever that even the refs couldn't bail her out. What happened next exposed everything wrong with how the WNBA protects its golden players. I've been analyzing basketball for years, and I thought I'd seen every type of playoff meltdown. Star players choking under pressure, teams crumbling in hostile environments, coaches making terrible decisions in crucial moments. But what I witnessed when the Indiana Fever walked into Las Vegas and completely dismantled Aya Wilson's championship dreams was something entirely different. This wasn't just an upset. This was a systematic breakdown of everything the WNBA establishment thought they knew about their league. Hours before tip-off, the cameras were rolling as Wilson posed with her MVP trophy. The narrative was already written in the media guide. Defending champions, newly crowned MVP, home court advantage against an injury-riddled 6th seed missing half their rotation. Vegas was supposed to cruise. The experts had already moved on to discussing who the Aces would face in the finals. But the Indiana Fever had other plans, and they executed them with the precision of a team that had been doubted all season long. From the opening tip, something felt different about Indiana's energy. They weren't playing like underdogs, hoping to steal a game. They were playing like a team that belonged on this stage, and every possession proved it. While Vegas was still basking in their pre-game celebration, the Fever hit them with a pace and intensity that caught the so-called champions completely off guard. Kelsey Mitchell set the tone immediately, but it was the way Indiana handled Wilson that really caught my attention. Instead of being intimidated by the MVP trophy or the championship banners, they treated her like any other opponent who needed to be stopped. And stopped her they did. Aya Wilson shot 6 for 22 from the field. Let me repeat that. The league's MVP on her home court in a playoff game went 6 for 22. That's not just a bad shooting night. That's complete domination by the opposing defense. If you're tired of watching the media ignore these kinds of performances while propping up their chosen narratives, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. I'll keep bringing you the analysis they won't. But here's what made Wilson's struggles even more telling. The way she tried to compensate for getting outplayed. Instead of adjusting her approach or trusting her teammates, she resorted to the kind of desperate tactics that champions aren't supposed to need. The elbows started flying. The flops became more obvious. The complaining to referees reached embarrassing levels. I watched Wilson throw Lexi Hull to the ground on what should have been a routine screen. I saw her lean into players with moving screens, then act shocked when basic contact occurred in response. This wasn't composed leadership you expect from an MVP. This was panicked basketball from someone who realized the game wasn't going according to script. The most frustrating part wasn't Wilson's individual meltdown. It was watching the referees try to manage the situation. Every time Indiana built momentum, suddenly there were phantom calls pulling Vegas back into the game. When Kelsey Mitchell drove to the basket and got foul hard, they reviewed it with a microscope looking for a technical. When Wilson threw obvious elbows, somehow the officials found ways to keep their whistles quiet. But the Fever didn't let the inconsistent officiating break their focus. If anything, it seemed to fuel them. Every questionable call, every non-call on Wilson's dirty plays, just made Indiana more determined to prove they belonged. Aaliyah Boston became the perfect counter to Wilson's frustration. While the MVP was losing her composure, Boston played with the calm confidence of a veteran. She bodied up Wilson on every possession, forced her into difficult shots, and never let her get comfortable in the paint. It was a masterclass in playoff defense from a second-year player who wasn't supposed to be able to handle this level of competition. The contrast between the two players told the whole story. Wilson, with all her accolades and experience, was letting the moment get to her. Boston, playing in her first playoff semifinal, was rising to meet it. Here's what the mainstream media won't tell you. This game exposed the WNBA's biggest problem. They created a system where certain players get protected instead of challenged. And when that protection fails, those players don't know how to respond. Kelsey Mitchell's 34-point explosion wasn't just about her individual brilliance. It was about Indiana's collective refusal to be intimidated. Every time Vegas tried to turn the game into a physical battle, Mitchell responded with pure skill. They could shove her after drives, jaw at her between plays, but she just kept hitting dagger jumpers. It was basketball poetry in motion. What made Mitchell's performance even more impressive was the context. She wasn't just outplaying Jackie Young or Chelsea Gray. She was outplaying them while dealing with constant physical harassment that the referees seemed determined to ignore. Lesser players might have gotten frustrated and lost focus. Mitchell used it as motivation to put on a clinic. The supporting cast followed her lead perfectly. Odyssey Sims played like the veteran who'd been waiting years for this exact moment. Her drives were fearless, her defense was suffocating, and her leadership kept the team composed when Vegas tried to make things ugly. Natasha Howard and Brianna Turner matched every cheap shot with disciplined positioning, never retaliating but never backing down either. And then there was Lexi Hull, who became Wilson's primary victim but never let it affect her game. She absorbed the punishment, stayed focused on her assignments, and finished with a plus 24 rating that told you everything about her impact. That kind of mental toughness doesn't show up in highlight reels, but it wins playoff games. The most revealing moment came in the fourth quarter, when Indiana had clearly taken control. Instead of adjusting their strategy or crediting their opponent's superior play, the Aces doubled down on the desperation tactics. More hard fouls, more obvious flops, more pleading with officials for calls that weren't coming because they shouldn't have been calls in the first place. Coach Becky Hammond's post-game comments perfectly captured Vegas's disconnect from reality. Instead of acknowledging that Indiana had simply outplayed them, she talked about missed opportunities and execution problems. No credit to Boston for shutting down Wilson. No acknowledgement that Mitchell had put on an offensive masterpiece. Just excuses that sounded more like denial than analysis. That refusal to give Indiana their due respect only highlighted how much the Fever had accomplished. They hadn't just won a road playoff game. They had completely flipped the power dynamic of the series. The statistics don't lie. Teams that win game one of the best-of-5 series win the entire series 72% of the time. So this wasn't just an upset victory. It was a potential series-defining performance that put all the pressure back on the defending champions. What made it even sweeter was the setting. Wilson had her MVP trophy presentation in front of her home crowd, with all the fanfare and celebration that comes with individual excellence. But by the time the final buzzer sounded, that trophy ceremony felt like it had happened weeks ago rather than hours ago. The crowd that had cheered Wilson's achievement was now watching her team trail in a playoff series to a 6th seed that wasn't supposed to be competitive. The championship banners hanging in the rafters suddenly looked like ancient history rather than recent accomplishments. Indiana's celebration in the visiting locker room captured everything about this upset. They weren't surprised by what they'd accomplished. They were energized by it. Lexi Hull's comment said it all. We're capable of whatever we want. That's not the mindset of a team that got lucky. That's the mindset of a team that knows they can compete with anyone. The ripple effects of this game extend far beyond one playoff victory. Indiana proved that talent and preparation can overcome reputation and favoritism. They showed that physical intimidation doesn't work against mentally tough opponents. Most importantly, they demonstrated that the WNBA's established hierarchy isn't as solid as everyone thought. Game 2 will tell us whether this was a fluke or the beginning of something bigger. Vegas will undoubtedly make adjustments, probably trying to slow the pace and hunt Mitchell more aggressively on defense. They'll look to get Wilson easier looks closer to the basket and try to establish the physical tone early. But Indiana has something more valuable than tactical adjustments. They have belief. They know they can win this series now, not just hope for it. That psychological edge, combined with their superior execution in Game 1, makes them dangerous in ways that go beyond matchups and strategies. The WNBA establishment wanted this to be Wilson's coronation tour, another chapter in the Aces championship legacy. Instead, they got a reminder that basketball games aren't won by trophies or reputations. They're won by the team that executes better when the lights are brightest. What do you think? Was this just Indiana catching Vegas on a bad night, or did we witness the beginning of a legitimate championship run? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more playoff analysis that cuts through the mainstream media narratives. And here's the key takeaway from the channel. Delve into financial education to enhance your quality of life. Within the financial market, explore bonds and shares, particularly focusing on real estate investment trusts, which offer potential for passive income. Engage with this responsibly and consider reputable investment brokerages worldwide.